Money feels solid, stable, reliable. We use it every day without a second thought. But history shows something uncomfortable, something we often forget. Money can break, and when it does, entire societies change. This is the story of inflation, financial crashes, and what happens when the trust that holds it all together completely disappears. Welcome back to The Historian. Today, we continue our deep dive with the Money Historian series. In episode 1, we explored the very creation of money. In episode 2, we witnessed how banks rose to power, shaping the flow of wealth. Now, in episode 3, we're going to look at the dark side of money when the systems we rely on fail and chaos takes over. So what is inflation, really? At its core, the idea is simple. Inflation happens when your money loses value. It's when prices go up. Not because things are suddenly better or more valuable, but because the currency you used to buy them has become weaker. Think of it this way. Last year, a loaf of bread cost $2. This year, the exact same loaf costs $3. The bread hasn't changed, but the power of your dollar has shrunk. A little bit of inflation is actually considered normal in most modern economies. It encourages spending and investment. But when inflation spins out of control, it becomes hyperinflation. And that's when money stops working. Why does this happen? Inflation often begins with a fundamental imbalance in an economy. It's usually a case of too much money chasing too few goods. Production of real things, food, cars. Technology can't keep up with the rate at which new money is being created. As a result, confidence in the currency starts to decline. Historically, governments are often the main culprits. They might start printing massive amounts of new money to fund wars they can't afford, pay off enormous national debts, or simply to survive a severe economic crisis. At first, this flood of new cash can feel like a relief. The government can pay its bills, and there's more money circulating. But this short-term solution often leads to long-term destruction. For a terrifying real-world example, we need to look no further than Weimar Germany in the early 1920s. After World War I, the German government was crippled by war reparations. It couldn't possibly pay. Their solution: turn on the printing presses. They printed marks in unbelievable quantities. The result was one of the most famous cases of hyperinflation in history. The value of the German mark plummeted so fast that prices were changing, not just daily, but hourly. A cup of coffee that cost 5,000 marks in the morning could cost 8,000 marks by the afternoon. People's life savings, carefully built over decades, became completely worthless overnight. Imagine saving 1,000,000 marks for your retirement, only to find it wouldn't even buy you a single loaf of bread. People literally had to carry cash in wheelbarrows, not because they were rich, but because that's how much money it took to buy basic groceries. Trust in the currency collapsed, and with it, the very fabric of German society began to tear apart, paving the way for radical political change. And Germany was not alone in this fate. This story has repeated itself throughout history, across different cultures and continents. In ancient Rome, emperors began to devalue their currency, the denarius, by mixing less and less silver into the coins. People realized that coins weren't as valuable as they used to be, and trust eroded. Much more recently, in the early 2000s, Zimbabwe faced a similar crisis. The government printed money so excessively that they eventually issued a $100 trillion bill, which at the time was barely enough to buy a bus ticket. In Venezuela, political and economic mismanagement led to extreme hyperinflation that destroyed the economy and forced millions to flee the country. The circumstances are different, but the core mistake is always the same. When people lose trust in their money, they abandon it. They turn to foreign currencies, to gold, or to a simple system of barter, just to survive. But not all economic collapses come from a government printing too much money. Some of the most devastating crises come from debt. This is where financial crashes come into play. A crash happens when borrowing and speculation grow much faster than the real, productive economy. This creates what we call an economic bubble. It could be a housing bubble, a stock market bubble, or a dot-com bubble. Prices for assets get pushed to unsustainable heights, driven by hype and the belief that they will go up forever. But bubbles always burst. When they do, markets crash, stock prices plummet, companies go bankrupt, and jobs disappear. Banks, which had loaned out massive sums of money, suddenly find themselves on the brink of failure. Fear spreads like a virus through the entire system, and we must never forget the human costs of these events. Crashes and hyperinflation are not just numbers on a screen or abstract economic theories. They represent real human suffering. They are lost savings, lost homes, and lost futures. They are families who can no longer afford to eat. They are generations of work wiped out in an instant. History shows us, time and again, that a major financial collapse almost always leads to political instability and social unrest. People become desperate, angry, and look for someone to blame. The failure of money is never just an economic problem. It's a social and political catastrophe. So, the big question is, can it happen again? Every generation tends to believe this time is different. We have more advanced economic tools, faster technology, and smarter regulators. But history disagrees. While systems evolve and technology changes, the fundamental drivers of human behavior remain remarkably consistent. Greed, fear, and the tendency towards excess are part of our nature. Money, in all its forms, always reflects these powerful forces. Inflation and crashes are not random accidents. They are warnings. They are symptoms of a deeper problem within the system. They teach us a crucial lesson. Money survives only as long as the trust in it survives. When that trust is broken, everything else breaks with it. In the next episode, we will explore the other side of the story, the attempts to create stability. We'll look at how nations try to protect their money, from the gold standard to modern central banking, and investigate why some succeed while others fail. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to The Historian to continue this journey through the story of money. This is The Money Historian.